Hunt for Greatness podcast.
Did not wear a hat tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Hunt for Greatness podcast. I got my boy Eric Williams, the legend, the outdoor Thor himself on tonight. What's up, Eric?
Oh, nothing much, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Man, it's your idea. This subject was your idea, and I appreciate you coming up with it. I mean, what a great idea to talk about Atlantic Bonito. What, three weeks before they're going to get here, probably?
Yeah, roughly, yeah. Yeah, it's my favorite time of year.
You hear them cicadas just come in,
that
boy?
one just,
I think we should rock with that.
Gear.
That thing's got one gear and it's go, okay?
Yeah.
Dang, we got to keep that thing open for that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, the cicadas are showing up. It's spring.
That's it.
This is my favorite time of year. We're starting to get ramped up for the different types of fishing. We do have the trout, flounder, and speckled trout right now, but you add in the migratory fish, it makes it a lot better for our fishery down here.
Yeah, that's true.
So Atlantic Bonito is what sets it off. So that's why I'm pumped up and ready to get at it.
First person that posts a picture of Atlantic Bonito wins. That's when it's really going to go off.
Yeah, for
Bro,
sure.
if I don't shut that, somebody is going to be having a...
Yes,
what do you think?
It's pretty loud.
Y'all hold on for a second. I'm going to shut my... That thing sounds like he's right on the door there.
For sure.
Those things are gnarly. Dude, take your headphones off and listen to it. Good gracious.
Yeah.
Are they in here?
I don't know.
That thing got a little bit too comfortable.
Yes, Alexa's just shutting the door.
Yeah, when you hear them cicadas, it's about Bonito time,
Yeah.
baby. Yeah, that's about the end of March, early April.
Yeah,
usually.
last year, it seems like it was a little later than the year before. And I do remember I got skunked 3 times trying to get on them early last year before I did actually catch a few.
What time did you... when were you coming and getting skunked? You think?
It was the end of March, early April. I think it
Okay.
was like mid-April last year. I could refer back to my videos because I did record a video on it, but I do think it was like mid-April.
And Eric has a video right now out on his YouTube channel, and it's how to catch Atlantic Bonito, tips, tricks, and tools. Tools, tips, and tricks, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'll link that in the description. I'll also put a card up right here where you guys can just click on that. It's about 10 minutes. If you don't want to listen to us go into detail about this stuff, you just click his video, and he breaks it down. It was a great video, by the way.
Thanks, man.
I really
Short and
enjoyed
sweet.
it. Yeah, like that was great. You did a great job.
Yeah,
so you're starting a podcast?
Yeah, I got half of my stuff today. I'm waiting on the board to show up, and then I'll be ready to roll.
Sick, dude.
Yeah, so I'm
I
excited.
voted to keep it on your channel, so
Yeah, okay.
it looked like you had a good amount.
It's like 80% almost.
So you're gonna
Said keep it, yeah.
Sweet.
I mean, if like the people don't mind hearing, stuff that isn't fishing related, then I wouldn't want to put it on another channel.
Right.
So I guess we'll run with it for a little while and see what happens, but I'll have to have you on there.
Absolutely. I would love to do it.
First 3 for sure.
I would love to do it. Yeah,
I
top
did-
3, top 5, baby.
Well, I did
top
ask
5.
my boss because he's going to let me use Nest Realty as the location.
Oh, sick.
So like a legit office and everything. And I was like,
Wow.
well, since, you're going to let me do it here, I want you to be my first. So.
I think I might wear a suit.
That'll
Y'all
work.
go check us out on Eastern Current Podcast as well. I dressed up like a cowboy, and we talked about how YouTube or how social media affects fishing.
Yeah.
And then we also did another podcast here about, and it's doing really well. It's got
Yeah.
700 or so views right now.
Well,
and I
that's
think people
that's a
are
great
involved.
topic.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Atlantic Bonito. So don't let me get off track here. Where should we start, Eric Williams?
Oh, well, we've kind of talked about the time of year. We're already there, basically, waiting on the water to warm up. I feel like one of the big indicators is when you start seeing the glass minnows show up in droves,
Absolutely.
and they follow them in. So we fished the other day, and we were targeting black sea bass, and we didn't see any glass minnows on our way out. We fished up to like 5 miles. I did, however, mark squiggly lines on the depth finder.
Let's talk about the marks.
Okay, the
Since
marks.
you brought them up, let's talk about. So, what are you looking for on your screen when you're seeing these Atlantic Bonito?
Usually you'll see your structure, which is anything 5 to 10 to 15, 20 feet off the bottom, and then around that structure you'll see a patch of squiggly lines that's usually a foot or 2 apart, and there'll be packed in. Really, just you can see the school outline, and most of the time they're going to be floating around the tops of these the structure. But they do, like, for example, if you're fishing an AR wreck, they're going to bounce from one to the other. So that's when, being in the right position and being able to kind of catch them on their way in and out is the best way to catch them. But I actually the other day we were at 5 miles and I did see marks that looked like Atlantic Bonito. We didn't try them because it was midday, and we were trying to catch black sea bass. But I don't know. It's probably too early, but I do think I marked something that looked like them.
So when you're marking the fish, you don't want to see a cloud. You want to see actually squiggly lines spaced that have some space in between them. Because a cloud is normally like bait fish, things of that nature.
Yeah,
right?
when you see a big mass of fish, it's usually smaller fish. And when you see that separation, that's when you have, quality fish. And the bonita they're pretty obvious that you can tell that, oh, this is out of character. This isn't glass minnows. So
they're prominent marks.
Mm-hmm.
I agree 100%. So do you want to hang around structure when you're looking for these marks?
Yeah, and usually it's within, I'm sure you can get them out at 5 miles, but usually it's within the first few miles of the beach. And I've even caught them as close to the rock jetty here in Wilmington.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never heard that before.
2 years ago. Yep.
Nice.
We were actually trying to catch Spanish, and this boat trolls right by the rocks, and all of a sudden I see his rod going off, and I'm like, well, that's a nice fish. Let me see what it is. He reels it in. It was a bonita.
Nice.
So we're freaking out. So at this point, we throw on Yozuris. It was the pink deep diver, and we trolled, and it was rough, man. It was like 3 to 4 foot swell right there in the inlet, and we caught 2 or 3 right there right
Nice.
before dark with hardly any time in it. So they do come as far in as the inlet.
Wow. Because I knew the albies came in like that, but I've never caught bonito that close. I'm usually 2-3 miles off.
Yeah.
Roundabout. And I am looking for that structure. The structure is an easy way for the fish, I think, to orient. So they're going to hang around there for a little bit. And I think early morning, so anything else with the screen that we didn't mention maybe? These fish move around a lot.
They do, and if just because you mark them right at that second, it doesn't mean they're going to stay right there, because they're constantly, moving throughout the area wherever that structure is.
100%. And I usually, seems like I mark them about 15 feet down whenever I mark them. So you guys keep in mind that when you mark these fish, if they're 15 feet down, your transducers on the back of your boat, you're going to want to toss this. We'll talk about baits in a little bit, but I use metals. You're going to want to toss this metal. You're getting a past. You're getting the past of what the machine is reading. So if these fish are going under your boat, most likely, almost every time I toss it off the back, and I'll count about to 10. I'll count to about 10 if they're 15, 20 feet down, in order for my jig to sink to the strike zone where these fish are.
Yeah, and usually early and late, if you're going to see them on the surface, that's when you're going to see them on the surface. I personally have not caught the bonita like a couple hours after daylight hitting the surface.
Me either.
It's usually suspended at that point.
That's what I was going to ask you next. What time of day? So if you want to sight cast them on the top, you need to be there before the sun comes up. You need to be really close to the spot, because those things start busting the moment the sun peaks over the...
Yeah, and in my experience, you and I are usually the first people out.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to be there early, and they do like if it's an overcast day, you can wait 10, 15 minutes, but your best bite's early.
Absolutely.
Or late, I'll say.
I've never been out late, but I've definitely been out there super early. Been the first person on the spots where they show up, and
yeah,
that's personally my favorite way to catch them is sight casting them. I love that. I love to see the fish will bust on the top, and it'll be like a washing machine of white water is normally. You'll even see some fish kind of come up out of the water a little bit. So if you see that, like what I do is I cast over the top of the school, and I'll rip it back through about 75% speed, 50 to 75%.
Yeah, I smoke it, man. Smoke it back to me.
Yeah. So I'm reeling at 75% speed, ripping this thing back, and it usually will get smoked. If you have a good cast, it'll get smoked.
Yeah.
So early in the morning, sight fishing these things is amazing, like so amazing.
Yeah, that's my favorite type of fishing is
Same.
casting that fish that you see.
Love it.
And a tip here so say you're new to it and you are getting into it. Well, getting out there early is going to benefit you, because once the trollers show up, it runs all the fish down, because those fish don't like that surface activity that goes on at these spots that we fish them. So if you're trying to sight cast, you got to get there early.
Got to get there early, or find a spot that's secluded. If you can find the fish somewhere that's away from everybody else,
Yeah.
you probably could sight fish them for a while, because they do move way off the structure. When people start trolling through the structure, they start moving off the structure. Mm-hmm. Now, so do you usually drift for these fish?
Well, in the past I did, but now I have the spot lock, so I plan on hitting that hitting that button and staying right there.
For sure.
Or trying to anchor, which if you're fishing any structure, you're going to lose some anchors. So it's I'm excited to be able to do it with the spot lock this year.
Yeah, I think I did just as well with the spot lock as I did drifting.
Really?
So when I went on my buddy's boat, he had no trolling motor, so we would drift. He would mark them on the screen, say toss it off the back, or not necessarily off the back, but if you're drifting, toss it to where we just came from. Mm-hmm. Basically, if you mark the fish here and you're drifting this way, you're going to want to cast your jig to where you mark the fish. So.
And that's a good point, because the downside of using the spot lock is that you're not correcting that drift over and over and over again and remarking the fish. So if you're spot locked in an area where they've moved on from, you're going to burn precious time in the morning.
Yeah.
So that is a good. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something to think about.
If you can get a drift that drifts you over the structure or close to the structure, I feel like that. I feel like we did about 150 yard drift, about 100-yard drift. I think a football field in length, and it was good because when we hooked the fish near the structure, the boat was moving, kind of like the amberjacks that day. We were pulling them off that structure so you couldn't get broke off. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
I think you can drift for them, you can spot lock for them, you can anchor for them. Any of that. But if you're drifting, you're marking multiple schools of fish. Mm-hmm. If I'm sitting in one spot, I'll mark the fish, and I'll be looking at the screen and then no fish will be there, and then 2 minutes later I'll mark the fish again. So they're swimming in circles, or they're swimming under my boat constantly.
Yeah, it's a type of tuna subspecies, or it's in the tuna family, so they're constantly moving, and they move very quickly. Yeah, and the meat is top notch.
It reminds me of wahoo.
Yeah,
honestly, white, flaky, because it's not red like tuna. It's like a white, flaky color, right?
Well, yeah, and the thing that helps is if you bleed the fish out as soon as you catch one.
Yeah, I always do that.
It's going to increase the quality of the meat.
And there's no limit on bonito.
Yeah, I think the most we've caught is like 9.
That's awesome. Trip. I don't think there's a limit though, to size or number.
Think so.
Yeah, so this fish doesn't have a limit, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. That's another good thing, is that there's so many of them. Because if there's no limit on a fish, there's got to be a lot of those.
Yeah, I think they also look at it like good luck, because they're only here for a few weeks.
Right.
They're constantly passing through, so that would be a reason not to.
That's true.
Worry about regulations on it.
Very true.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say last year the fish were more prominent in topsail area.
Really?
Yeah, they were catching them on the piers.
Wow.
Yep.
They get that close to the beach.
They kind of passed us and went up to topsail and then worked their way back.
So they're coming from the south. Probably.
I would assume so.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure you get some that are migrating east to west too, but I remember specifically last year that they were burning them up in topsail before I had a good day down here.
62-degree water temp. Am I remembering right, or is it higher?
I'm not sure on that.
I think it was between 62 and 65 when we started catching them, but I could be wrong about that. But just from what I remember looking at my screen, it was somewhere between 62 and 67 every time we were. And once it got up to about 70, the fish, to me, from what I remember, they weren't there anymore. And it was more the Spanish were coming in, the kings were coming in. So I think once it reached, and then the cobias are coming in when it reaches about 70, in the 70s, I think I started to see cobia closer to the beach. But yeah, so I think between 62 and 67, we'll pay attention to it this year.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll circle back around after. But
well, yeah, I think the water's in the upper 50s now.
Yeah, so it's got to be probably, especially after this warm week we've had.
Yeah.
I don't know if the temperature is going to drop back down real low. It seems like it's tricking me right now.
Yeah, we're in that weird stage of like freezing one day and then 85 the next. So, and it's also been blowing, which is an indicator of spring. But some of my best days are rough weather.
The best day I had was rough.
Yeah.
The best day I had was rough out there. We caught like 9 or 8. I think we caught 8. All nice ones, and couldn't shut our Yeti cool. Me and Maddox were out there. We'll have him tell y'all about that. We're going to have him on a special guest appearance here at the end. But so rod and reel. So what is your ideal rod? If you could take one rod and a reel combo, what would you take?
I'd probably have a 3,000
Okay.
size with a 8 to 17 pound rod, and 20-pound braid would be like a perfect middle ground.
Okay.
I like, if I'm jigging, I like the 3 to 4,000 size with the 8 to 17 pound, but 30-pound braid because you are getting right on the structure.
Okay.
And if I'm solely casting, I'd prefer a 2,500 with 10 to 15-pound braid. That's my preference.
For sure.
And then the leader is going to be somewhere in between 20 to 30. I kind of talked about this in my video, but the 20-pound, you're going to get a lot more action. Whereas these fish have great vision, so they can see exactly what you're doing. That's why you have to rip the bait back to you, because you're tricking this fish into seeing it's a fleeing bait fish. 30-pound is a lot more comfortable, but I don't think you get as many hookups. So if it's an overcast day, you're fine with 30. But if it's a bluebird and that water is crystal clear, 20 probably is the way to go.
That's a good point, and I never once thought about that last year because we did good, but I used 30-pound every single time I went out. I never downsized my, and there was times I was marking the fish and not getting the bite, so it could have been that. That could have been my issue. But I used 30-pound fluoro every time I went out is what I used. Anytime I'm near structure, like you said, I put 30-pound fluoro.
And the fluoro is only like $10 more, and you are going to get more fish with fluoro.
Why is that?
I just think that it blends in better with the water.
Weird, dude.
Yeah.
Just the material it's made out of, fluorocarbon material.
Yeah, it's crystal clear for the most part.
Look, man, it took me years to figure out that that a leader was a thing, dude. Like, I never used stuff like that with bass because I used monofilament. So it was like,
Yeah.
I mean, and then when I come to the braid side of things with saltwater, people were telling me, "Oh, trout, you need 6 foot of fluoro and all this." I'm like, "What?" Because they're gonna see your bait. I'm like, "What is going on?" And the moment that I learned that, the game changed for me. The moment, because they can see that braid. They can, and plus you have zero stretch with that braid. It doesn't have any give to it. But yeah,
and braid is a lot. It will slip a lot more than that leader will.
What do you mean?
Like if you don't tie your knots right,
Oh yeah,
it'll come undone just from pressure.
yeah.
So that fluoro is nice. And
What kind of knot you tie?
FG for everything, really.
Okay,
If I'm connecting leader to braid,
okay,
my favorite's FG.
okay.
I've had it fail like one time in 4 years, and that was my fault. I didn't tie it tight enough, and I've spent thousands of hours on the water. So I trust that knot more than anything. And if I'm putting my bait on, I'm using loop knots.
Okay.
Some kind of loop. And my logic is, now it could be crazy, but I feel
You're
like,
definitely crazy.
well, I'm very analytical with this stuff,
Right.
but I feel like the bait will flutter more if with that loop knot versus a
Yeah, I mean, logically you would think that.
as it falls. And then if you use like any kind of cinch knot, I feel like it's going to tighten down on that bait and only let it fall and move to a certain degree.
Yeah, I need to learn how to tie a loop knot. I don't even know how.
Yeah.
I tie a uni on everything. I tie uni to uni to my uni braid to fluoro, and then uni to my. I need to learn more knots.
If
I
I'm
think.
jigging anything, it's a loop knot.
Yeah, I
to a degree.
definitely. That makes sense because people tie them on top waters, and it gives them more action when they're walking the dog with a top water.
Yep. And if I'm tying like straight, like say I'm tying up a bottom rig or something, like that's when I'll use the uni. I mean, you can't beat a uni, but I'm trying to have my bait look as effective as possible.
Sorry, I'm just looking at that thing. So
You're good.
Baits. What's the bait, dude?
I love the gotcha jig fish from Walmart.
Gotcha jig fish.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
$4 to $5 a piece. You can get them in every color. They the best sizes, in my opinion, are 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce.
Okay.
Anything bigger than that, I don't think it falls very natural. It just looks like a piece of lead falling through the water column. If you're going to be casting long distance, I feel like anything larger than 1 is okay. But for jigging, I just don't think it seems very natural. I haven't had luck with them in the past.
Like anything larger than 1 ounce, you're saying, for jigging.
Yeah.
Needs to be less than 1 ounce or less.
Yes, and in our area, you may be fishing 25 feet to 60 feet, and you're going to downsize according to the depth. So if the bonito happen to be on the rocks, you might want to throw a 1/2 ounce to a 3/4. And because that 1 ounce is going to sink quite a bit more.
Hooks for those. I saw you switched your hooks out. What do you use? And you switch a treble hook out off of the jigs you're talking about, right?
Yeah, so anytime I buy any type of epoxy metal jig, I check the hooks. If what I do, like planning for the season, is I'll go to Texas Tackle and I'll buy one of those big pound bags of the VMC number 2s.
How much are those around?
Yeah, well, last year they were probably $15. This year they may be double. I don't know. I still have some, so I'm good.
So
but,
it lasted you all year, and you still have some.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and I'm crazy about if I see rust, I switch it out.
Absolutely.
You know, so when you buy them in bulk like that, it's a lot easier to be like, all right, chunk this one, let's replace it. Because like I say on all of my stuff, my time out there is very valuable. So the reason I fail is not going to be because of my gear. It's going to be because of me.
Oh, I mean, you don't have any. There's so much you don't have control over out there, but you have control over your knots, over your hooks, over your reels and rods, for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, why not gain the control you have? Because there's so much that's out of your control out there. Weather, fish, the fish behavior. I mean, all that's so out of your control. So I get that 100%.
Yeah, and another tip to be more effective when you are out there is make sure you're checking your line periodically. And that not necessarily the leader alone, even your braid. Say you're fishing next to a piece of structure and you get hung. I mean, there's a good chance that however deep that structure is, your braid is destroyed up and down.
Oh, it's going to be frayed up.
And all it takes is you hooking a good fish and losing it because of that mistake, and you won't do that again. So I'm constantly checking my gear, making sure my line looks good. My leader, what happens is these fish, now this goes for Spanish, kings, anything with sharp teeth, Atlantic Bonito in particular, when they hit and inhale this bait, say you miss the hook set or whatever it is and it pops it out of their mouth. Well, when you reel it in, what they'll do is they'll actually shave down that fluorocarbon, and you can see like little circles where they've it looks like strategically shaved it down. Well, now that's a weak point in your line, so that needs to be cut off and retied, because all it takes is a 5 to 10 pound trophy Atlantic Bonito getting off, and because of a mistake like that, and you'll hate yourself for life. So I'm always checking that leader and making sure it looks good.
That's very true, because those fish have those. That's the difference. If you're out there fishing and you hook a fish and you don't know if it's a false albacore or Atlantic Bonito, teeth. Mm-hmm. False albacore don't have the teeth. Atlantic Bonito have the teeth. Their stripes are a little different, but the teeth are the easiest way to tell. Because when I hooked the false albacore, I was like, oh, is this the one you can eat? Like, I didn't know. I'm like, oh, is this the one you can eat? Is this the one you can eat? And I Googled it, and it's like, this Atlantic Bonito has teeth. And there's a big difference between the taste of a false albacore and the taste of an Atlantic Bonito. Huge difference.
Yeah, and one thing, if you are going to eat your Atlantic Bonito, you may like really fishy fish. You can leave the bloodline in, but most of the time I cut my bloodline out of everything I eat.
I do too.
So that's a tip there to create better fish. But it's sashimi grade. Eat it right on the boat.
For sure. And if you're not going to keep an Atlantic Bonito, release it as quickly as possible, because they die fast. Same with false albacore. If you're not going to keep it and use it as bait, release it quickly, because they literally will die within a minute and a half. A minute, they're pretty much done for. So I just, if you're going to catch and release them, which if you don't like fish, I understand. But if you like fish, you would never release one of these Atlantic Bonito, because they're so good.
Yeah, we always end up freezing them, and they freeze pretty good.
Do they? I've never done it.
Yeah, well, if we vacuum seal them, so I'll clean them all up and vacuum seal them. 5 fish is a ton of meat, because
Absolutely.
These little fish are 4 to 6 pounds each, and then when you cut them and fillet them out, you've got 2 to 3 pounds of meat per fish.
There's so much.
Yeah, it'll last you a long time.
What's your favorite way to eat them?
Grilled, probably blackened. That might be my favorite way to cook fish, period.
You keep it rare in the middle?
That's the best way to cook it.
Best way.
Yeah.
So you've eaten it raw?
I have tried it,
Do
yes.
you like
I'm not a big raw fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just raw, like in general?
Yeah, well, I messed up because I worked in the seafood industry, and I know what a raw fish goes through, and it kind of messed me up. I just don't eat raw fish.
Yeah.
Just seeing the parasites that some of them have, and it's that's just not my thing. I don't like fish enough to eat it raw.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely eat it raw, but when I hear the word parasite, it makes me not want to eat it raw.
Well, most of it was your stomach acids will dissolve it, and they can't really affect you yet. So
Weird.
yeah.
So weird. So I don't know anything about bonito fishing. I hope we covered a lot. So if I don't know anything about bonito fishing, tell me if this sounds right to you and tell me what you would add or subtract. I don't know anything about bonito fishing. I'm going out of the inlet. The weather's good. The ocean's looking pretty, not dangerous. That's the first thing I'm going to look for. Make sure that my forecast was correct as far as the wave height. I'm not in a big boat. You're not in a big boat. We can't be stupid out there. First of all, safety. All right. Coming out of the inlet, I'm looking at the ocean. It looks good. So I don't know any spots. I can take a map like one of these. I can take one of these maps right here of my area. You guys can see that, and I could find a near shore AR or a reef or a shipwreck. Is that going to be your if you don't know anything about bonito fishing? Is that going to be your go-to?
Well, to back up, I would download the Fish Weather app.
Okay.
And it's going to have your swell height and your period. Swell height is the height of the wave. Your period is the distance between waves. If you don't know what you're doing, you need to study that stuff before you get into going out in the ocean, period.
Every time, because you could read that forecast and then go out there and it's a little different. And you're like, well, what's different from here than it was in the forecast? And you can figure it out kind of like that.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't go out in more than 3 with my boat.
3 foot.
3 foot.
Every how many seconds?
I don't really pay attention to that because
Okay.
the waves are small enough at that point. If I know it's blowing onshore and it's 3 foot, probably won't go because it's going to beat me to death. If it's blowing offshore at 3 foot,
Like out of the
it's going to be
west.
a long period.
Okay.
So it's like a science that you kind of manipulate based on your boat and your situation.
For sure. And if it was blowing hard the night before, even if it looks calm on your forecast, the ocean's still going to be kicked up a little bit when you get out there, in my experience. It can muddy the water up. It can make it a little rougher out there. That's a great tip for a new boater is to get that app.
And to take it another level, say you have a spot at 5 miles you want to go out. It's been blowing. Now I'm just going to relate this to Wilmington. It's been blowing northwest at 15. Okay. You look at surf checks. It's calm. You're like, oh, let's go. Well, when you get out there a mile to 2 miles, all of a sudden that swell can reach you, and the side chop wind. That's something to think about. Is how is this going to affect me when I'm a few miles off the beach? Because it does matter as far as wind direction goes.
Absolutely. It matters a lot on our little boats, what wind direction. So you're going to first check the forecast. Mm-hmm. If you don't know any spots, you don't know anybody, then you're going to look on this, right? Is that what you would do?
Yeah, well, you would like you said, you'd have some spots picked out based on that. If you're fishing anywhere from up and down our coast, there's ARs that are within a few miles of the beach.
So that's what you're looking for, within a few miles, you're thinking.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would think. And you're going to take, if you can only take one ride, you're going to take a 2,500.
I'd do
or a 3,000
3,000 a 20-pound braid if I had one, but I would never do that. I would have
for sure
3
for
probably,
sure.
And I would cover each base.
Okay. And then when you pull up on a spot, how long are you going to give it before you go to another spot?
I'm trying to see fish before I fish, if that makes sense.
Yes, I want to see them on the top, especially early in the morning.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to see them on my fish finder.
If they're not on your fish finder, they're not there.
They're going to show up on that fish finder, guys. Like that's a key thing for bonito fishing for me. Like if you don't see them, you're exactly right. They're not going to be there.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yep. And if you have the capability of bouncing spot to spot, you have a boat with 30, 40-gallon gas tank, there's no reason why you shouldn't run up and down the beach trying to hit these different areas, because just because they're here, they may be smoking them in topsail, and that's only a 20-minute drive.
Right, especially if it's nice.
Minutes. Yeah, and that could be the difference between you having a skunk day and a great day.
Absolutely. We got our special guest. Oh, our special guest is coming on, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, watch your step right here, sir, when you're entering the studio. See that wire right there? You can come sit in my lap. Me and Eric are going to ask you some questions, okay? So tell everybody who you are.
I'm Maddox Hunt,
Maddox Hunt. And tell them why you're here. Tell them why I asked you to be on the podcast.
so I can tell a story.
Oh, what are you going to tell us a story about today?
A fish story.
Oh, that's me and Eric's favorite kind of stories.
What kind of fish you been catching, man?
Bonito.
Oh, let's hear about it.
Can you tell us how it happened?
I throwed my rod out, and then the fish came and it ate it.
How many casts did you cast out?
One.
One? One cast?
Yeah.
You caught him on the first cast?
Yeah.
Is this your rod right here? Hand me that rod. Let me show the viewers this rod right here. All right, guys. So this is Maddox's rod, and it's a 5'5" Berkeley, and it's a Daiwa 1000, I believe, or a 2000. Maybe it's a 2000.
Line.
Yeah, I think it's a Daiwa 2000. So this is what Maddox was fishing with that day, Eric.
Is that a BS? The Bonita Slayer?
Is that a Bonita Slayer? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the old BS right there, boy. So you cast it out one time. Can you pick out which piece of bait right there that you used whenever you were casting? Do you know which one it was?
This one.
Oh, Eric knows something about that green, boy. What you think about that green, Eric?
Hey, green was the color last year.
Green, bro. We about to get T-shirts. That's what Maddox was using right there, the Hoagie Heavy Minnow Jig, and this is a little bit over an ounce.
Yeah.
So you casted it out, and what did you do?
I caught a bonito first cast.
Did you count? Did you throw it out and did you let it sink?
Yeah.
You did? How long did you count?
5.
Counted to 5? Okay, I thought you counted to 10.
1.
No, I think.
I caught it in one cast.
Oh, one cast. That's right. I think Maddox counted to 10 when he casted it out, and we were seeing them right there on our screen. And how big was it? Do you remember?
500 feet.
500-foot bonito, guys. Yeah. It was 6.5 pounds, and he had 10-pound braid with 15-pound fluoro, and we had a Hoagie Heavy Minnow Jig on there. And you fought that fish for 5 minutes. I'm gonna link this video as a card, and I'll link it in the description of you catching that fish. What do you think about that? Yeah. You like that?
Yeah.
You ready to do it again?
Yeah.
It'll be here in a few weeks.
You know that's how me and Eric met, right?
Yeah.
We met out there on a spot catching bonito. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We met a year ago.
Time flies, man. Time flies.
Almost a year ago, and
Yeah.
it's been and we've had a crazy, awesome experience.
Fishing journey.
Yeah, dude. You guys definitely go to Eric's page, check out his fishing videos, and he's got a lot of videos too about kind of explaining things, probably a little better than I do. And they're concise and they're to the point, and you do a great job with that. Eric does a great job explaining his emotions out there when he's fishing. We do we do very similar fishing videos on YouTube. But yeah, you guys definitely go check out Eric's YouTube. I'll link that in the description as well. Did we cover everything, you think?
The only thing we did not talk about was the baits that you like, because you have a stack sitting up there.
Yeah, let's talk about the baits I like.
Yeah.
I like that. So I always, are you going to sit in here with me while I talk about this? Cool. Mad Dog 2020 is going to join us, ladies and gentlemen. So I always keep a Big Nick diamond jig. Always. Because when this profile here is not working, that's also a Big Nick jig. And that is a 3/4 of an ounce. So I always keep a pink, I keep a green, and I keep a green, bruh, and I keep a silver. And I like the pink diamond jig as well. Yes, that is the green one. These are a little more pricey. These are about $8 a piece. You don't have to switch the hooks out on any of these. They're stout hooks, which is a good thing. But these pretty much will keep their paint on them, their sticker, their paint on them pretty good until you catch about 15 fish with them. And then it's like, I've had the diamond jigs completely white before, and they're still catching fish. So I think that this is crucial to have both these profiles. And I think it's crucial to have this over an ounce jig for me, because if I mark them on my screen 15 feet down, I like to be able to toss this out and not count to 10. I like to be able to count to 5 like he was saying and go ahead and rip it back. So the retrieve, let's talk about the retrieve real quick. Those are my top 3. Let me hold these up for the camera. I got the Hoagie Heavy Minnow Jig, I got the Big Nick Diamond Jig, and I got the Big Nick, it says Glow Belly, but it's just a regular. Those are my top 3 right there. Y'all can find those all at Intercoastal Anglers, so shouts out to Intercoastal
Mine
Anglers.
too.
Those are your favorite too? So they have a stack of these things up there right now, and you better get them while they're there.
Yeah, that's another piece of advice is buy the stuff early. Because
Absolutely.
when you hear that they're here, that's too late. Everybody's already gone that day and bought them out.
100%. Retrieve. So on the jig, how are you jigging off the bottom? I just want to talk about this before we end it.
I like to feel the bottom. So drop it down, wait till it gets there, feel the bottom, and then just start popping it off the bottom. Most of the time, these fish are going to sit up in the higher water column. So if you see them at 15 feet, you can reel up, 2 or 3 cranks, and that'll put you where they're at, and you jig the same way. But most of the time, if the straight up and down doesn't work, I can yank sideways in the drift. That works. And then, for example, all of a sudden you're jigging underneath you, and you see them busting way out in front of you. Reel up really fast and cast past the fish in the direction that you're seeing them jump, because you want to be out in front of them.
That's the direction they're heading.
Yep.
Okay.
You want to be in front of them, and then you're going to burn it back to you as fast as you
Burn
can.
it. Y'all heard that.
Yep.
That's the speed, is burn.
Yep.
Burn that sucker back. So we talked about retrieve. We talked about gear. We talked about where to find these fish. We talked about what time of day they're doing what.
An ocean.
We talked about the ocean. We talked about the forecast. We talked about the screen. I think we covered that.
Yeah.
If we could just not post a picture of a bonito until they're gone, that would be awesome, guys. So, that's not going to happen probably.
Yeah,
it's probably going to be me.
Well, I was going to
I'll
say,
be the
we're going
one.
to be dropping videos before people can even get out there.
I'll be the one, dude. But yeah, I think we covered everything, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, thank you so much for coming up with this topic. And anytime you come up with a topic, I'm more than willing to do a podcast, because I think the stuff that you think of is phenomenal for fishing.
Yeah, we need to do one for Spanish and Albies next.
Yeah,
I don't
dude.
know. We can wait a few weeks, but
Let's wait a few
I'm
weeks.
going to make a video on it too, so we can do it around the same time again.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Hey, if you guys want to sell your house, is it sell?
Yeah, buy, sell. I cover residential here in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I sell land all across the eastern part of the state.
Ooh.
But so say you want to know what your house is worth, shoot me a text, give me a call, write me an email, whatever works best for you. No pressure. Just trying to help people.
Yeah.
So if the numbers work, we can move forward. If not, call me later.
Yeah, and you're a damn good realtor. Eric just sold the house across the street. Can I say that?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
okay?
sold, yeah.
All right, because the news is hot, baby. Eric just sold the house across the street. He come over here and do a podcast. He said, that looks like a nice house. How much they want for it? Bam, dude's got it sold the next week. So you guys hit Eric up if you want to buy or sell your house. Definitely if you want to sell your house.
Yeah,
Because
sure. Now's the time.
Yeah, now's the time. So, dude, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you to our special guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comments, and me and Eric will kind of stay on top of it. I'll definitely stay on top of it and try to answer. Stop eating my microphone, boy. And I'll definitely try to answer you guys' questions. So thank you guys for watching the channel. Don't forget to click like on this video if you liked it. If you're a hater, click the thumbs down button. And you guys, thank you so much for watching the channel. We love you. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you, Eric.
I'm eating the microphone.
Wow, dude.
Time for greatness.